following investigation contains graphic details. Viewer discretion is advised.
Last time I left you on a 911 call, a woman bleeding at the bottom of a staircase on the Murdaugh property. Tonight, I'm finally going to tell you who she was and what Alex Murdaugh allegedly did to her sons after she died. Because this is the story that turned a grieving father into a suspect. Hi, my name is Ada and this is Amo True Crime Stories. For clarification, this is my avatar, but the voice and the investigation are all mine. The cases discussed on this channel are based on publicly available information, including news reports, court records, police documents, and other verified sources available at the time this video was created. This content is presented for documentary, educational, and commentary purposes only. Any opinions expressed are personal interpretations and should not be considered definitive statements of fact. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. Some material discussed may be disturbing to certain viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. With that being said, let's get into this case. Her name was Gloria Satterfield, and for almost 20 years, she was part of the Murdaugh household. She helped raise their boys. She was, by every account, trusted, loved, treated like family. And in February 2018, she fell at their home, and weeks later, she was gone. Now, here's the part that made an entire state stop and ask questions. There was no autopsy. Her death was written down as natural, and what happened to the money after she died is one of the coldest chapters in this entire saga. So, in part 4, I am going to do two things. First, I am going to tell you who Gloria really was and what prosecutors say Alex Murdaugh did to her sons. And then I'm going to walk you straight into the courtroom, the murder trial that the whole country watched, and show you exactly how the walls closed in. Stay with me, because once you understand Gloria's story, the murders start to look very, very different. Let's go back to February 2nd, 2018. A 911 call comes in from the Murdaugh property. On that call, Maggie Murdaugh tells the operator, and I'm quoting the released audio here, "My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up." Paul Murdaugh is on the line too, telling the dispatcher she's not unconscious, she's just mumbling. The story at the time was simple. Gloria had tripped and fallen on the brick steps, according to what Alex Murdaugh later told an investigator. She had said the family's dogs caused her to trip. A trip and fall accident, a tragedy. Gloria was taken to the hospital. She held on for more than 3 weeks, and on February 26, 2018, she passed away. Now, here's the first detail I need you to hold on to. No autopsy was performed. Her death was recorded as natural. The coroner was, according to later reporting, never even notified, as you would expect in a case like this. A woman dies after a fall at one of the most powerful families' homes in low country, and there's no autopsy? At the time, nobody outside that world was asking questions, because in this part of South Carolina, the Murdaugh name is the law. We covered that in part 1. But remember this detail because it matters later. Now, this is where things get strange. After Gloria died, Alex Murdaugh did something that on the surface looked almost generous. He encouraged Gloria's sons to file a wrongful death claim against himself. The idea was that they could collect from his insurance. He even pointed them to a lawyer to handle it, a man named Corey Fleeman, his close friend, his college roommate, his son's Paul's godfather. What Gloria's family was not told, according to her sons and their attorneys, was that this was a massive conflict of interest. Their own lawyer was Alex's best friend, and the man they were supposedly suing was the man steering the whole thing. Here's what prosecutors and the family say happened next. The claims settled, not for a little. According to testimony and reporting, Murdaugh collected on multiple settlements connected to the Gloria's death, one for more than $500,000 and another in the millions. Reporting and court records put the total figure in the range of over $4 million. And Gloria's sons? They say they never received that money. In fact, they say they didn't even know those settlements existed until they learned about it later, some of it through news reports. Let that sink in. The money meant for two grieving sons, the sons of the woman who raised his children. Money tied to their mother's death allegedly never reached them. So how does this come apart? It comes apart because of June 2021, the murders of Maggie and Paul, which we cover in part 2, put a national spotlight on this family. And when investigators and journalists start pulling threads, Gloria's case is one of the first to snap back into view. In September 2021, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division reopened the investigation into Gloria's death, citing inconsistencies in how it was originally handled and questions about that settlement money. And then the dominoes fall. In October 2021, Alex Murdaugh is arrested on charges connected to misappropriating those settlement funds. His friend Corey Fleeman would eventually face the music too. Fleming later pleaded guilty and was sentenced to years in prison for his role in the scheme to steal from Gloria's family. And here's a line I want to be precise about because it's confirmed. Through his own attorneys, Alex Murdaugh later admitted that the story about the dogs causing Gloria's fall, that detail he gave investigators, was not true. His lawyer stated he lied about it. To this day, exactly how Gloria fell has never been fully independently re-established because, again, there was never an autopsy. So, step back and look at what we have. A trusted housekeeper dead, no autopsy, a secret pile of settlement money, a best friend lawyer, and sons who say they were robbed of their own mother's settlement. This is the moment the public stopped seeing Alex Murdaugh as just a grieving father, and it's the exact kind of desperation prosecutors will later say drove him to murder. Because here's what the prosecution was about to argue. All of this, Gloria's money, the missing client funds, a man whose entire empire was built on stolen settlements, all of it was closing in on Alex Murdaugh in the spring and summer of 2021. The day of the murder, he had been confronted at his law firm about millions in missing money, and prosecutors would tell a jury that a man with everything to lose did the unthinkable to buy himself time and sympathy. That argument went to trial in January 2023.
Alex Murdaugh's claim is that he ate dinner with his family, took a nap on the couch. He goes to visit his mother, comes home just after 10 p.m. and finds his wife and child shot and killed.
Did he murder his wife and son?
No.
Does he have any idea who did?
No.
There's no eyewitness.
There's no fingerprints. There's no forensics tying him to the crime. None.
He's got burns in his mouth.
The defendant is with the two victims at the scene of the double murder.
Do you recognize any voices on that video?
Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alec Murdaugh.
Do you recognize Alec's voice? Yes, sir.
This is the same guy who told police he wasn't there. He was taking a nap.
Knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
What did you do once Maggie and Paul left?
I stayed in the house.
Okay.
And I was watching TV, looking at my phone, and I actually fell asleep on the couch.
Okay.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was.
You continued lying after that night, did you not?
But once I lied, I continued to lie. Yes, sir.
Last time you supposedly saw your wife and child, all of this detail, you as a lawyer and a prosecutor didn't think that was important to offer on your own?
Well, I think it's important.
You told this jury how cooperative you've been and how much information you wanted to provide, but you left out the most important parts, didn't you?
I left out that. I sure did.
You don't consider that one of the most important parts?
I think it's important.
How can you believe them on the ultimate issue when they said they didn't? When the only thing they corroborated for you throughout the investigation, throughout this trial, and throughout Mr. Waters' cross-examination is he's a liar. And that's all you can judge people on.
No one who thought they knew this man, no one who thought they were close to this man knew who he really was. And Your Honor, that's chilling. And I've looked in his eyes. He liked to stare me down as he would walk by me during this trial. And I could see the real Alex Murdaugh when he looked at me.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh, verdict, guilty.
It doesn't matter how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, if you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina.
On the evening of June 7th, 2021, Paul, Maggie, and Alec Murdaugh were at the kennels on the Moselle property in Islandton, South Carolina. All three family members' voices can be heard on a video that Paul recorded of his friend's dog at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. Moments later, Paul heads over to the feed room connected to the kennels, and phone activity shows he was texting. He sends his last text at 8:48 p.m. and his phone locks forever a moment later. At this point, Alec ambushes his son. Paul Murdaugh was shot with buckshot from a 12-gauge shotgun in the chest. The shot struck the left side of Paul's chest and exited near his armpit. Amazingly enough, it did not pierce the chest or cause any internal bleeding. He would have survived this injury. This exhibit from the prosecution shows he was standing about 5 feet into the feed room, and the muzzle of the shotgun would have been just past the doorframe. The medium velocity blood spatter seen on the floor here is the result of gravity pulling blood down from that wound. This hole in the window shows the trajectory of the buckshot pellets in the feed room.
No defensive wounds at all. His hands are down. And he takes that shot, buckshot to the chest. And any person who did that would probably think that took care of business, because this buckshot, but for some reason he was canted this way and it went through. It was 1,000,001 shot. That it didn't kill him. Alec thought of it. But he thinks Paul's shot. And you heard the testimony that Paul appears in the feed room doorway. As Alex putting down that shotgun to pick up the blackout, is startled by Paul. And that's why the angle's like that. And catches Paul like that. And goes up into the ceiling, as you've heard the testimony from Kinsey. Blows his brains out.
This time it was birdshot from within 2 feet of Paul. The second shot traveled from his shoulder up his neck and out the top of his head, causing immediate catastrophic damage, severing and ejecting his brain from his skull. Paul's face was still intact, suggesting that he was shot while slightly turned toward the shooter. There were bloodstains and body tissue on the entry door, threshold, frame, and wall and ceiling above the door, including high-velocity blood spatter at the top of the door. Spatter was also identified on the floor and shelf to the right of the doorway. Other evidence at the scene includes hair found on the top of the door and wall, skull fragments on the floor, and brain tissue on the outside walkway. There were also defects from the shotgun pellets on the steel door and in the door frame, both at the top and on the right side of the door frame. On the other side of the storage shed at 8:48 p.m., Maggie reads her last text, and a moment later at 8:49, her phone locks for the last time. At 8:53, Maggie's phone shows 59 steps traveled. It is believed that after hearing gunfire, Maggie ran from the other side of the storage shed to see what was going on. As Maggie approached the feed room near this overhang area, she would have caught a glimpse of her son Paul lying on the concrete in a pool of his own blood with his head half blown off.
Maggie sees what happens and she comes running over there, running to her baby. Probably the last thing on her mind, thinking that it was him who had done this, she's running to her baby.
Then she was shot down by her husband with a .300 blackout rifle. Maggie sustained 5 distinct gunshot wounds from at least 4 shots. 3 of these injuries were non-fatal. The first 2 shots were parallel to each other, one on her left upper thigh and one on her abdomen that exited around her kidneys. She also sustained a gunshot wound to the wrist. Stippling from around Maggie's wounds indicated that the first 2 shots had been fired from within 3 feet. The forensic pathologist testified that the shot fired into Maggie's abdomen while standing would have caused her to bend over or fall to her hands and knees, setting up the first of the 2 fatal shots. The first fatal injury came from behind, entering first her breast and then her jaw into her brain, immediately killing her. It is believed that the shooter then circled Maggie to deliver the second fatal injury into the crown of her head. 6 fired cartridge cases were found in a walking cane handle shaped pattern, indicating that both Maggie and the shooter were moving as each shot was fired. The groundskeeper of the kennels testified that the garden hose was not put up in the way that he did each time, and that there was more water pooled in the kennel area than there usually was.
Wouldn't take long to strip down and wash yourself off. Get in that cart and head back to the house.
From 9:02 to 9:06, Alec's phone indicates he traveled 283 steps, leaving for his mother's house at 9:07 p.m.
Far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing? Going to the bathroom?
No, I don't think that I
Get on a treadmill?
went to the bathroom. No, I didn't get on a treadmill.
Jogging place?
No, I didn't jog in place.
Jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
One moment later, data from Alec's vehicle recorded him passing the exact location on Moselle Road where Maggie's phone would be found in the shrubbery the following day. His vehicle recorded him speeding up after passing this location and maintaining a high rate of speed until he reaches Almeda. At 10:05 and 57 seconds, Alec's Suburban arrived back at the kennels, and he calls 911 about 20 seconds later at 10:06 p.m.
Alex Murdaugh, my wife and child shot badly.
Alex told investigators he came home and found them.
Central 717 scene is secure. Got a Whiskey Fox, Whiskey Mike, both gunshot wounds to the head.
Sir, I want to let you know because of the scene, I did go get a gun and bring it down here.
It's in your vehicle? Do you have any guns on you at all?
No, sir. It's leaning up against the side of my car.
Okay. You're fine, man. You're fine. Turn around for me.
I don't have any.
Okay. Yes, sir. I see that. Okay. This is your wife and son? Okay. How did you pull up? You from back there?
I went to the house and they weren't home, which was odd. I tried to call.
Okay.
And then I knew they had been down here before I left to go to my mom.
Okay.
I pulled up and I could see them, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And my boy over there, I could see it was. I could see his brain on and I ran over to Maggie and actually I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them.
Neither of the murder weapons were ever found, though prosecutors believe that both are family weapons, as it was determined that matching case cartridges were found in other parts of the Moselle property.
But we know, unlike the expert they call from Connecticut, where they can't even get ARs, who doesn't know about people riding around on property, doesn't know about Paul and the two guns he likes to use, he doesn't know about this family and how common those guns are together. Says, well, his only conclusion is, oh, it would be practical for somebody just to fire out the clip. But this is him, this is Alec, the prosecutor, the lawyer, and he's thinking through this. He's thought through this. He's going to use two guns because it's going to confuse people that perhaps there were two shooters. But again, it doesn't make sense. Two family weapons?
Indicators of gunshot residue were found on Alec's hands, shirt, and his shorts. His shoes did not test positive for gunshot residue. The forensic examiner testified that the white t-shirt and shorts were in the vicinity of a gun being fired, or the residue transferred from a surface that had gunshot residue. And to be fair, he did retrieve a weapon from the house after apparently discovering the bodies, so it could have transferred from that weapon. It was also revealed that after the roadside shooting incident in September of 2021, that Alec's seatbelt in his Suburban had gunshot residue on it, though a time frame for when that particle of residue was placed there could not be established. But the most significant piece of evidence when it comes to gunshot residue is this blue jacket that the defense fought hard to get excluded from evidence. It was recovered in October of 2021 from the home of Alec's mother. The forensic scientist testified that a significant number of particles of gunshot residue were found on the jacket. More particles were found inside the hood than the outside. The expert testified that the jacket could have been worn inside out, or, and as the prosecution theorized, a recently fired firearm could have been wrapped inside the jacket. Additional key evidence was recovered from Paul's phone, which was a video recorded on Snapchat earlier in the evening before the shootings, which showed Alec in a blue collared shirt and long khaki pants, showing that he did change his clothes. The Murdaugh family housekeeper testified she remembered Alec having this shirt on that day because she specifically remembered helping him fix his collar. This shirt was never recovered, and Blanca, the housekeeper, testified that she never saw that shirt again, and she was the one who handled all the family's clothes, laundry, etc. Additionally, Shelley Smith, the caretaker at his mother's house that night, testified that he was wearing the white t-shirt and shorts when he came to visit, but that he had Sperry topsider shoes on and not the GSR-free sneakers he was wearing when police arrived.
Any shoes that were canvas type shoes?
The boat shoes, like the Sperry.
Spirit shoes?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember those?
Yes, sir. They used to sit in the closet.
They used to sit in the closet. After June 7th of 2021, did you ever see the Sperry boat shoes again?
No, sir. I do not recall seeing them in the closet.
Never ever?
No, sir.
Shelley testified that Alec had also asked her in kind of a roundabout way to lie about the amount of time he was at Almeda that night, suggesting to her it was more like 40 minutes rather than the 20 minutes that she remembers, and that data from his vehicle and his phone corroborates.
What was he telling you about that he was at the house the night of the murder?
That he'd been there 30 to 40 minutes.
Did he indicate to you what he wanted you to do with that information?
No, no.
What did he say?
He just said that he was at the house the 30 to 40 minutes, I said.
Was he there 30 or 40 minutes that night?
not to my recall.
Why are you crying?
We're a good family, and I love working there. And I'm sorry all this happened. They're good people, you know.
But he wasn't there no 30 or 40 minutes, was it?
No.
Get back. Get back.
My wife and child got married.
There's two more that don't get to testify. We couldn't bring you any eyewitnesses because they were murdered. But common sense and human nature can speak on behalf of Maggie and Paul. When you look at this in its totality, common sense and human nature can speak for them. And they deserve a voice. Everything he did was meant to try to frustrate forensics as a lawyer and a prosecutor with the two guns and the manufactured alibi, and not taking his phone down to the scene, deleting call logs, making short phone calls, bringing up the boat case, moving Maggie's phone, changing clothes, looking at Paul's phone, calling Rogan, or trying to call Rogan. One man controlled this crime scene initially, and that was Alf. But there were some things he couldn't control. And we brought those to you.
The case went to jury on March 2nd, 2023. And here's the detail that tells you everything about how that jury felt. They deliberated for less than 3 hours. Less than 3 hours after a 6-week trial. The verdict, guilty. Guilty on both counts of murder, guilty on both weapon charges. And the next day, March 3rd, 2023, the judge sentenced Alex Murdaugh to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The man, whose family's name had been the law in that part of South Carolina for 100 years, was going to die in prison. It felt in that moment like the end, like the final page of the story. But it wasn't, because the way this trial was run, what was happening behind the scenes around that very jury would years later bring this entire verdict crashing back into question. And that is where part 5 begins. So let's bring it back together. Gloria Satterfield was a woman who gave nearly 20 years to the Murdaugh family. And after she died, prosecutors say the man men she trusted stole the settlement meant for her sons. That theft was one thread in a web of financial crimes, and it was that web, the desperation of a man about to be exposed, that prosecutors put at the heart of a double murder trial. A video recorded by a dying son, a blue raincoat, a father who took the stand and admitted he had been lying all along, and a jury that needed less than 3 hours to call it murder. Alex Murdaugh was convicted, sentenced to die in prison. The story looked finished, but in part 5, I am going to show you how that conviction was challenged and what a court ultimately decided about whether Alex Murdaugh truly got a fair trial, because the answer changes everything you think you just watched. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, it's completely free, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss part 5 when it's released. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Stay safe, stay alert, and always pay attention to what's happening around you. Until next time, take care.